this is our year of hope, healing opportunities for peace and evolution. This is our monthly event where we have professional life coaches and healing professionals to come in and speak to us about wellness in various forms.
Join life coach, ordained minister, and speaker Gabriella Dennery in conversation and activities on what makes healing necessary for living in ways that bring you and others joy. Understand why healing is not just physical, clarify emotional, physical, and mental healing steps that work for you. Having left a secure career in medicine to pursue her love of music, she discovered a thing or two about the meaning of the word healing. To live the life I really wanted to live was not just about a career change. I had to heal. I had to transform what I fed my mind and my spirit. This opened up avenues I could never have imagined. Quote from Gabriella. Now a life coach, ordained minister, and speaker, Gabriella works with clients to discover their aha healing moments on their way to living their fullest life. You can find out more about her at docworking.com and gdennerymusic.com. And without further ado, Gabriella Dennery is here with us.
I mean, my goal whenever I speak or teach or preach or coach is that I would love for whoever I'm dealing with, whether it's a group of people or just one person, that they can come out of this with this one thing that they're going to take home with them. And you get to decide what that one thing is. We're going to cover Albert, thank you for the introduction. And that's kind of my story. I went from practicing medicine. I was a primary care doc. So that's the doctor that saw people from the ages of 18 and up. So I probably would have seen most of you at some point. And, till, 100, whatever the time period may be, and with everything under the sun. And then after a while, I kind of had a breakthrough moment called burnout. And I decided to shift to something that is near and dear to my heart, which is music, and has always been there since I was a little girl. And then along the way, I discovered something that could kind of marry the two together, and that was called life coaching. And so I got into health and wellness coaching, got my certification, and started seeing clients and was excited about that. And then there was a higher calling, and, he kept getting called a little higher. And, the universe, God, life, whatever you want to, whatever your designation is, called me higher. And so I signed up for ministerial studies. And so I became an ordained minister. But in my third year, before starting my final year of ministerial study, there's no diploma, certificate, or training in the world that ever prepared me for the news that I got in July of 2018 when the doctor said, Gabriella, you have cancer. And so I am proud to say that in this moment, I am a year and a half in remission. Hallelujah. It's awesome. It's an awesome thing. Yes. But I tell you, it's as I said, no amount of information, no amount of education, no amount of knowledge would have prepared me for that. The confusion, the embarrassment, the anger, the denial, the fear, and the more fear. I actually had to call my sister up to say, hey, come down and listen to what they're telling me, because the doctors are talking to me like I'm a doctor. Oh, well, your AST shows this, and your BUN creatinine shows that, and blah, 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 wank, 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 wank. And I tell you, in those moments that I couldn't hear any of that. I'm trying to, oh yeah, sure. All I saw and heard and knew was the fear and the confusion and the embarrassment and et cetera. Did I do something wrong? What did I eat the wrong foods? Did I not do the right thing? I didn't exercise enough. What happened? Maybe I didn't meditate enough times. I mean, et cetera, et cetera. The whole list was going through my head, and I couldn't hear a word. So my sister, who was also a physician, I said, you come down here and you listen to what they have to say, because I can't hear a thing. And so that's what she did, thank goodness. And that was a big, big relief. But I tell you, through all of that craziness, which followed was 10 months of chemotherapy and then a bone marrow transplant. And through all of that craziness, I was still in school. I decided to stay in school. I was going to finish because I didn't know if I had another chance to finish. So I said, I'm going to go for it anyway. Both my parents passed away that same So 2018 into 2018, both of them ended up in hospice and died a month apart from each other. And I'm flying between chemo to go back home to be by mom's bedside, go back to school, go back to chemo, to fly home to be by my dad's bedside, et cetera, et cetera. Craziness. When it rains, it pours. And I tell you, that was the time of test. And I discovered in those moments and in that craziness that my definition of healing shifted. Okay. So let's say approach to healing back then was more of what I could do. Okay, well, let me add something else. Let me make sure I walked around the block. Let me make sure I added the right foods. Let me make sure that I slept enough, and those are important. But I was going at it from the point of view of, let me do something for my health and well-being. And there's nothing wrong with that, because in the end, you still have to do something for your health and well-being. That you can't skip. Because then I realized that it was healing includes the doing, and includes the little things that you get to do for yourself, eating right, exercise, connecting with people, et cetera, et cetera. And then there was, well, what about my mindset? And what about my heart space? That's what was missing. Carolina, letting go. Yes, letting go of old stuff, and we're going to get to that later. So hold on to that thought. I'm going to go through a couple more comments, and we're going to get back to our presentation. Healing, Kelly, healing is when you communicate with yourself to find peace or patience within. I love that. Absolutely. Because that's the thing, isn't it? That life can be kind of chaotic, and life can be chaotic. Life is hectic sometimes. It's the nature of living. But if you can find peace and patience within, then all the chaos really will not have such a strong effect. And so that's an important point too. Healing is self-acceptance, Micah, and knowing your truth. Yes, it is. Self-acceptance moment by moment. And so we're going to talk about ways that the brain sometimes wants to play tricks on us and move us away from self-acceptance into a place of just doubt and fear and anxiety. And that is the opposite of healing. And healing is learning how to get back into that place of self-acceptance. And so, Albert, I'm going to read this last comment. I would say loving yourself, but not in terms of immediate gratification. So that goes back to patience and process and journey, more of being attentive to what one is feeling and not ignoring it, but giving it the proper time and the attention. Whatever you're feeling, it's okay to feel it. It really is. It just is. And then you allow yourself the richness of the experience, no matter how difficult it is, rather than stuffing it and moving it aside, because it'll come back again. Many of you have heard somebody say in your family, well, I have diabetes, and my mother had diabetes, my grandmother had diabetes, and so I'm probably going to get it. Or something else like that. How many people have heard that kind of thing, that just because somebody over there or older or an elder got it, you're going to have it too, right? Okay. Somebody else's experience, somebody else's contractless life does not have to be yours. Their experience with life is not just about what's in their body, but it's about everything else, their beliefs, their experiences. They have a whole experience before your very existence. So that means that your experience and their experience will be different. And so, and the experience of your children and the next generation will be different than yours. And that's the beauty about it. You get to heal because you are in acceptance, as somebody else said on the line, that you're working to achieve long-term happiness for you. And you're putting yourself at the center, and you're defining and deciding how you're going to define and redefine your own experience along the way. And that really is part of healing. You get to choose. And that's the beauty about it. You get to choose. You can learn from other people's experiences, and you get to choose what's coming up for you. So we're going to,
if I may, because what you said also goes for how we deal with stress.
Yeah.
How we pass that down, like my mom, worked 24/7. She might have worked 20 hours out of the 24 or something. And she passed that down to me, like, you have to work hard. What are you doing? You're sitting down, you're reading? No, you have to work, So, and that stress level, and I can feel her stress now. Now that I'm trying to chill, I can feel her stress when she's talking to me. What are you gonna do? What do you, like, just always that pressure. That
Mhm.
gets, those kind of things get passed down too.
Oh, absolutely. Can anybody relate to that? That sometimes you remind yourself of your parent, or it's like sometimes I scare myself. Exactly, because we're raised with it, right? It's around us all the time. When as we more than I would like. So I agree with that 100%. I hear my mother in my head 24/7. Anita, yes, my grandmother, absolutely. Don't we pick up these old habits without even thinking about it, these beliefs and patterns without thinking about it? And then we have to be careful, because in our healing journey, we have to be mindful that we could potentially pass it on to somebody else if we're not careful. So if you set your intention that the buck stops here, that at this point, your mission in life is not to pass the neuroses of the past coming up next, and you can start here today, then all you have to do, and we're going to talk about this later, one tiny step makes such a massive impact. It doesn't have to be a big thing, and you'd be surprised what kind of impact you'll have just by just being aware of that. My mother used to tell me that my life was going to be about working, raising children, and being miserable. I mean, seriously, she was very serious about that. And as a kid, it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would I want to work to be unhappy? But throughout my life, especially when I was working as a doctor, I enjoyed my patients, but not a whole lot else. I was miserable. And I decided that, well, that's just the way it goes, because that's what I remembered and that's what I had in my body. And so it's like, nah, make that switch. And I'm happy you bring up this point now, because we are aware in so many different ways of generational thinking and generational beliefs and how it impacts us today. So does it mean that you have to cure it right away? No, we're talking about healing, which is patience, which is compassion, which is self-acceptance, which is self-love, right? Which is a process, it's a journey, and it begins with awareness. You are all here because you are aware that there are certain patterns in your life that you may have inherited that you want to break. And I'm going to say right here, where you look at that nice, neatly packed suitcase. That's kind of where we want to be. But it's the understanding that things happen. A loved one gets sick, money is low, a tuition needs to be paid, transportation to and from school, stuck at home in front of a computer all day. The computer's not working, the technology is failing, mom and dad are getting upset for whatever reason, because everybody's tired of being cooped up in the same place all the time, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there's that, sometimes there's order, and then life means that it gets messy and you get that crazy suitcase with everything, piling out. And it's like, well, this is what my life looks like right now. And we talked about how to be in both of these conditions. In other words, even if things seem crazy, the question is, are you practicing acceptance? Are you practicing self-love? Are you finding something to laugh about? I mean, come on, man, there's a bra hanging out with this suitcase. That's funny. Can you connect with a friend, even if it's over the phone? If you're tired of Zoom, then call them, say, hey, how you doing? Can you sit on a stoop for a minute with your masks on and chit chat? Can you, find that place where even in the overwhelm, you find that moment of peace, okay? And so enjoy the fact that there's a lot of just wonderful love and even silliness in everything that we do and everything that we look at. And you get to smile about it. That's powerful. That's transformative. And that too is healing. So I go with simplicity now. Healing is simple. And so I don't know if you have these healing practices and they're pretty simple. And it's like, but no, Gabriella, it should be more than that. I'm like, no, you can start right here. And then your next step will be obvious to you, et cetera, et cetera. Name 3 things you are grateful for today. So I want you to write that in your journal and start practicing that. I mean, if this speaks to you, but you'd be surprised how hard it's difficult for a lot of people to answer that, to just name 3 things that you're grateful for today. Okay. And the next thing is appreciate. I appreciate myself for, and you can fill in the blank and name at least 3. It could be today, I appreciate myself for. I appreciate myself for being part of this conversation. I appreciate myself for having fun and trying to find things to just love life about, even if it doesn't look so pretty or feel so pretty in the moment, you know? So I'm gonna go to the next one. Have a favorite quote, a favorite mantra, a favorite scripture, something that is a go-to that in the moments of discouragement or even encouragement, and you want to read it like 10 times a day and read it every single day, put it on your computer, stick it on the bathroom mirror, stick it in your wallet or your purse, find it today, write it in that notebook of yours, and put it everywhere, okay? Experiences. The best way to really get out of a funk is to serve. And serve is the easiest thing, especially in this pandemic era. Call somebody you haven't spoken to in a while. Your voice may be the voice they need to hear in that moment. Your smile may be the smile they need to either see on Zoom or just know just by the way you're talking that you're smiling. They may need to see that from you today, feel that from you today. And so not only are you helping yourself by just shifting gears and, as I said, getting out of your funk, you're serving somebody else because they can really just, oh man, it was so good talking to you. I'm so glad you called. Don't text them, call them, okay? Dial.
When you speak about doing what you love once a day, it's a great question, Albert, too.
Yeah.
One thing you do every day, and she said play her music, which is what she loves. Not only what she loves to give, but what feeds her, right? And in feeding yourself, I think that's self-love. Allowing yourself to have what you love, to be fed, to really be fed. And then we have more love to give other people, right?